Indian slaves. The way to be reckoned with. Their
All right, man, for the playback, you already know, man, it's a live stream playback. Skip a few minutes as people start to come in. Let me lower the lights so we can see. Well, y'all can see that. Y'all can see that. So I'm gonna talk a little bit for those who decide not to fast forward through. So we're gonna talk about Indian slavery and identity theft. We're going to talk about Indian slavery, maybe a bit of Indian erasure, and identity theft. We're going to go through a series of maps, videos, different things. I'm not going to use up a lot of my voice because I'll be getting tired. So, playback, and it's taking a moment for the algorithm to kick some people my way. So if you're in the playback, skip a little bit ahead as I wait a little bit for people to come in. This will give me time right here as we get started. I always got to give y'all a cool visual to start off. Make you be like when you come in, make you be like, what's that? What's this about? That's how your boy like to do it, you know. Make you think, make you wonder. But we're getting started. Just getting started. Appreciate y'all coming in. The topic, it's going to skew to a couple of things, but they're going to be conjoined topics. The topic is going to be about Indian slavery, a bit of Indian erasure, as well as identity theft. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to roll this, and I'm going to get the cooking up for the folks. Appreciate y'all coming in. I've been doing some deep research. It's like that's all I've really been doing is research, to be honest. A lot of work, and then as soon as I get off or as soon as I wake up, I'm researching something. I'm just like research crazy right now, and I love it. I'm finding all kind of things, all kind of intriguing things. I'm catching people in lots of lies, and that's my big thing is catching people in lies. Like, quit lying to us. Y'all playing around. Quit lying to us. So all right, we about to get started, and then we'll double back for the people that come back in, as y'all know how I do. Double back and break it down for the folks. What's up, Thunderhawk? Appreciate you liking it live. Appreciate y'all all being in here. Let me set this to the side. Let me just grab me a little something. And then we'll be ready. All right. So, Indian slavery. Well, us in the community of the Indian community, we know that Indian slavery is some of the first people who were enslaved. Now, that's not your typical story that your $5 Siberians would say. They don't really have a story about being enslaved. Now they're trying to take that story on, but it's really kind of hard for them to take the story on because you got to think about it. they've been pushing the narrative that if you were a black person in Indian territory, you were owned by the Indians as slaves. But then when we look in the crates and we see that Indians were some of the first and main slaves, now they're starting to say, well, we was the slaves too. But it's like, well, wait a minute. How were you the slaves and the slave owners? That doesn't make sense. But there is a way that the Indians, which are us, were and are slave owners, could be, no, not slave owners, could be Indians, be Indian slaves, as well to YT folks or to YT Indians. Like, our story can fit the narrative. Okay, it's the YT folks that own people. It just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense. It's like you don't really break out of freedom and become a slave owner per se, but on paper you would be, to a degree. On paper you would be, if you owned your family or something like that. Now let me show y'all something that's kind of interesting while we're kind of getting going. And somebody sent this to me on in the messenger. This person, okay. Shout out to Hypnotic Rain. So this right here, she was like, he or she, they had asked me a question. Have I ever seen the 1782 Virginia census? And I was like, nah, because as we know, the census, let me just pull it up for y'all, started supposedly in 1790. But I did know that other states have done censuses or census before 1790. I think I've seen one. Mississippi might have done one. Well, I don't know about that. No, I don't know if that's pre-17. I doubt theirs was pre-1790. I think theirs was just pre-statehood. But I want to say I've seen some other ones. But either way, now this is the one that she sent. Now, when you first look at it, this page has a name category, right? I'm going to show y'all what I thought was very intriguing. And this is your different categories. Now, there was a slaves tithable and slaves not tithable. But notice there's not that many in that list, going down. Notice there's not many. Somebody had 10 slaves tithable and slaves not tithable. And notice you don't see the color of the people either. So I was like, okay, they did have a slave category. But then it went a lot of people in there, but then I went to this page. And it says summary of population. No, wait a minute, hold on. Okay. Was that the same thing? Okay, I'm not for sure what this particular is, but this is what I went to. So this is in one particular county, in White County, okay? Now, what am I paying attention to? The sections like this. Now, why is this important to me is because notice you have head of families. Well, all the way up, and I might as well pull up an example while we're here. 2 examples. Paul Tillman Willis, slave owner. Should be like one of the first ones to pull up. For your boy. Is this the one? Yes, this is it. Okay. So the main thing I'm always paying attention to are things that change. Now notice this is Paul Tillman Willis. He's in Alabama, 1784 to 1857. That have been during slavery times, right? Deep slavery times. This will tell you that he is, typically says it somewhere. I don't know why it's not saying it. And I'll turn, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. They done switched this up a little bit. But basically, he's a black man. Somewhere it typically says it over here on the right-hand side. I'm just like, let me make sure I'm in the right one. But yeah, because there's the 1840 census and the 1850 census. There's the 1850 and there's the 1840. So yeah, they've changed the website up. Up here at the top, literally, because I just did this last week or so. We were looking at this, and literally, it looked different. I just wanted to show you where it shows that he is of a black whatever. But it's probably going to be up under... I don't know. Just believe me, he's black. Somewhere it would say it typically, but I don't like that it ain't where it used to be, though. And I don't like that I can't find it. I don't like that at all. But okay, so let's get on with it. So 1840 census, because we really want to pay attention to this. 1840-50 census right here, okay? So I'm going to click on that. In fact, I'm going to open it up in a new tab. The 1840, we'll open the 1850 census up. Because you got this format that was 1780 something before it went to the 1790 format, which is going to be this 1840 format, pretty much. It might be a little slightly different. And then 1850. And then you have this 1850 format. So what's the difference between this, and this? And why were the changes made? Well, first of all, this one, when I click on view full record right here for Paul Tillman Willis, it's going to tell me that he was listed with YT persons listed up under his name. Now, he is a black man, so-called black, okay? But he has YT people listed up under him, as well as so-called blacks. Here, they named them slaves. There's a free persons of color somewhere, free YT persons, total free colored. And he has some free coloreds with him. Well, total free colored, free white, free colored, and slaves. So I don't know. I guess that's the total for all of them, which doesn't make sense because there's more than 6. So I don't know. It's a little off right there. But he's got some YT folks. But let's look at the actual document itself to see what it looks like and see how similar it is to this and what's different. Well, one thing you should notice is 2 things are similar. You have a head of family category. Okay? A head of family category. Why is that important? Well, this lets you know still that they went around counting only the head of families. Not counting, but recording the names of the head of household, whoever owned the land, whoever house it was. Right? And then everybody that was listed under that person was just a little tick mark, or according to this, they just put it like this. Now, this is a digitized version of it. I would love to see the actual handwritten version like we have sitting up over here. I'll probably have to do a little scrounging for it, but I'm going to go by the numbers. I'm gonna say that they being truthful, okay, and being truthful with the categories. So notice we do have a head of household category. But over here, we have a YT and a black category. Not a YT and slave category. Not a YT, free white persons, free black persons, slave, black, none of that. None of that. But over here, in 1790, somebody decided to play some games. They said, hey, all the people that's white tea are free. So we got to list them as free white tea people. Well, why do you have to, if all white tea people are assumed to be free, why do you have to put the free word in there? Think about that. You know, how many free white people y'all got in America? 2 million. Okay, how many non-free white people y'all got? Like they all, well, I don't know. Were they listed as slaves? It doesn't make sense because really it doesn't make sense. But it really does make sense because what they were trying to do was paint a narrative. And they needed to separate things. So they said, hey, you got Mr. Paul Tillman Willis, who's a black man, but he's the head of household, and he has some tick marks under him showing that he has some free YT people under him. Right? And if he was in this one, it just would have said that he has some YT people under him, right? If it had his name there, it would have been there, right? So what's the difference? Well, the only difference is somebody said, hey, put free in front of that YT person. Put the word free there real quick. Just for this go around. We just trying to, emphasize how free the freedom is over here. We was already free, I guess. Maybe. Even though they working under a black man's plantation. For whatever reason, right? Because they got tick marks under him. But don't worry about all of that. Put we free, okay? So now let's go to. So now we know the differences between this one and then let me just show you. Then the black people would be listed under either free colored persons under him, or the next page over would be would say slaves or whatever. Let me see if I can go. No, I'd have to go to the actual census. This is just a document uploaded onto here. But this ain't the whole census form. But basically, the next page over would say slaves, deaf people. They was counting all kind of other folks. So the thing we take away is, for some reason, somebody decided to go from this format here, where it was just white and black, right? Funny, there's no Indians, even though there was Indian slavery, which we're going to get to. Funny, there's no Indians on there. Kind of funny, but that's what we have. So now let's go to the 1850 census form. Now, when you get to the 1850 census form, we're going to view the full record. What you'll first notice is it doesn't really show much right here. It used to show more. Let's just go to the document. Hell, I don't give a damn about their changes. They want to keep changing shit. Paul Tillman. Now this is different. Hold up. Now, I mean, it's still the slave schedules. No, this ain't the slave schedule. This is his free inhabitants paperwork. Maybe I clicked the wrong one. Hold up. 1840 census, 1850. That's it. That was his free inhabitants paperwork for 1850. Where's the slave schedule for the nigga though? Hold on, y'all. I told y'all this website looked like it had changed a little bit. Let me try this again. It would always pull up the 1840 slave schedules, but right now it's pulling up the 1850 slave schedules. But right now it's pulling up the 1850. It's still Paul Tillman Willis, but it's showing him. You got one page that shows you got. So this is what they did. They separated the documents, and I'll just pull up a sample. It ain't got to be Paul Tillman Willis, but I'll pull up a sample slave schedule document, and we'll see the changes while they playing games over here. But you got Paul Tillman Willis listed down there, right? And he's listed. Let me click on it so that way it's actually not all pixelated. Why y'all playing games, man? Go back to that shit. So Paul Tillman Willis, right? Now under the category, it says the name of every person whose usual place of abode on the first day of June 1850 was in this family. That's an odd way to set that, but notice it's the free inhabitants in what are the 19 districts in the Chambers County, whatever, Alabama, enumerated on whatever day by Britain, whatever. Okay, so that's what you got. And under here, the descriptions: Paul Tillman Willis. They put him down as a mulatto, but no, that's a male. My bad, male and female. This is hold on, man. I feel like I'm not on the right. I mean, I feel like that's the right one, but let me see. No, okay, here we go. So that was because the reason why I did that real quick is because this white box under race specifies a white person. I don't know. I thought Paul Tillman Willis was on here. I don't know, but this is the real one. I just seen it. This is the right one for sure. I know because of this little area right here where they list this and they list these slave males. I did not see none of that earlier. And this is about Paul Tillman Willis, 1819. So let's click into these records, okay? 1840. And this will get me to the slave schedules. But again, they still changed this page up because up here somewhere it used to say he is of black heritage. So I don't like what they're doing with the whole little change up. And I'm trying to find if they just put it in a different spot. It was right here over on the right hand side. Now they talking about DNA test all over the goddamn place. I don't give a damn about the DNA test. Yeah, I don't know what's up. Let me do a control F and see if the word black is in there. That's crazy. Why would they take that off? Yeah, the whole word ain't in there. That's crazy. Maybe if I don't want to click over to the biography. Whatever. All right, let's go over here. So same thing, Mr. Paul Tillman Willis. Like that's why I was like, I don't know I don't know what that other page was or whatever. But here's the actual slave schedules. So now this is the free inhabitants papers. Hold up. That one's showing the free inhabitants paper too, unless I didn't click the right one. 1860. Oh, here we go. Slave schedule. They've separated. See, look, I know that it did not be. It was not said. That's why I keep clicking the same thing, because I'm like, it was not like that before. But anyways, let's look at the slave schedule. Name of slaves. Now this is under Mary. That says Mary Willis. Paul Tillman Willis. I swear, man, I'm gonna have to. I know I got the paperwork, my damn self somewhere. But let's just look at this. You got your name of slave owners. Okay, that's the category now. You got a free inhabitants paper where your name would be on that, and then you also have the slave schedule. So they've separated the categories. Let me remind you of what we're talking about. So you had this format here where if you were a black person, you visually on the form it could look like you have YTs and blacks under you if you had them on your plantation, right? Well, they could still be on your plantation, and that was 1780, and then you come here to the 1840 census, and they can still look like they're under you. Like if this is Paul Tillman Willis right there, Paul T. Willis. I don't know why the other shit ain't here. But and as you can see, free YT person, and as you can see, check marks. And so visually, I'm thinking about it. Visually, I'm thinking about there's a check mark, there's a check mark, there's a check mark. But visually, I'm thinking, what's the difference between this and that? I was like, okay, well, on here, it still looks like you can have somebody listed up under you. You'd have to be doing some digging, right? But yeah, they put the word free under YT, but if somebody was to look at the census, it'd be like, oh, he was free, but it looks like he was under Paul Tillman Willis. What is he doing under there? Right? And he would have to account for it. Why is he doing up under the head of household? Why is there YT people under the black man head of household, right? So I believe they was like, in 1850, we have to correct this. We can't be looking like we up under some black folks. And then that's when you get the slave schedules. If I can find a damn slave schedule. Right here. That's when you get the slave schedule. And so let's just imagine Mary Willis was Paul Tillman Willis, right? Well, even Mary Willis has some slaves that are very young. Look at this. She had a 2-year-old slave, a 3-year-old slave, a 5-year-old slave, a 9-year-old slave. Boy, she had a little kid sweatshop going on. Somebody need to arrest her, right? Ain't that slavery of kids? Is that what that is? Is that what that says? Because they would be listed as slaves, right? So is that kid slavery? Somebody said it right there. They were just family. He said all girls. I didn't even notice that. All girls, yep. They would just be family. Likely her kids, likely her babies, right? Now you got to start asking questions. A couple of different questions. First, where do white folks go? Because everybody listed up under here is going to be a black or a mulatto. They're no longer listed under there. They're listed all under the free inhabitants. Because remember, now they're free white people. They've always been free white people, supposedly. But they've been trying to figure out a good way to make it work. So the first time they tried to make it work, they just put the word free next to white folks and said, that should work, right? We just free white folks. Fuck it, Fuck what they talking about, right? And then when people started to notice, yeah, this don't look right. They said, well, let's change that up a little bit. Let's make a section called the Free Inhabitants Papers, right? And all the white people get to go on there no matter where they live, okay? Cheating bastards. And we'll put the black people there if they got head of household. And then under the slave schedules, that's where we put all the real slaves. All the real 2-year-old and 3-year-old slaves. Right? What does this do? This makes the numbers look way bigger. How many slaves were there? And people are using the number. I hope you know in 1860, it was 3.2 million of us enslaved. You don't understand the horrors we had to endure between 3.2 million of us having to be enslaved like that. Okay. All right. Calm it down. That's not what it is. Do you think they have the 2-year-old out there on the field? Whipping on her, telling her to pick the cotton. She can't even fucking walk. Just learning how to goddamn walk. You think the 3-year-olds out there, what do you think they're doing? And how many of these people are kids? There's a 7-month-old right there. He was out there on the field hard. She was out there on the field hard. Get that newborn out there now. Give a goddamn how many months she got. She need to pick a piece of cotton for every month, goddamn. Somebody said respect. What's happening? Conflation, exactly. Conflation. Just like they had to do with the little shot numbers. They got those false positive tests to make the numbers look all big and make it be like, look, man, look how many people done tested for this shit, man. Y'all might want to come get this shot. Okay, they playing games, right? They got 7-month-olds as slaves in paperwork, right? Literally counted in the numbers, huh? There's a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 63-year-old, a 8-year-old, a 6. Now you got to start thinking, how many of the slaves counted out of the slaves were under a certain age? Now on this, I do got a certain piece of paperwork that probably has that listed. But it doesn't allow me to do a control F and actually find certain things, and it's a hella long document. But I could probably have this broken down by age. I'm pretty sure that I do remember seeing like the age breakdown. So then you'd have to say, well, all of them people wasn't slaves. And you know, I know, I get it. You know, they'll say slavery was on the, you know, on the mother or whatever, you know. But then I would want to see if there are any black children listed in the free inhabitant. It probably is. I think it is. Let me see. Well, a lot of these people listed are white on this record. I'd probably have to go find me some black folks with a B next to their name on this whole. Because all of these are supposedly white folks. And that's why that doesn't make sense. Because that's got to be a completely different Paul Tillman Willis, or they didn't put the B right there on purpose. One of the two, because Paul Tillman Willis, it's a different one because this one says birthplace Virginia. Paul Tillman Willis was born, I believe, in Alabama. So yeah, it's a different one. It's still kind of a weird, and he's YT. So think about this. You got a YT man named Paul Tillman Willis. You got a black man named Paul Tillman Willis. Now, Paul Tillman Willis, the black man, had YT slaves. He also had a plantation, black slaves. He's well known, whatever, right? Alabama. But you got this YT man. How he get the name? The exact same name. Identity theft. We're going to get to that at some point. So, now that we got a bunch of people in here, we're going to get to the real crux of the topic for today, which kind of coincides with the slavery thing I just showed you. We're going to talk about Indian slavery, talk about even how a Library of Congress historian that I watched today talked about it, and in what late of a time he talked about it in, and how important that time frame is. Then I'll show you some excerpts of books that mention the slavery. We'll also go through some series of different videos. But okay, so let's see what this weirdo was saying. Let me see if this is the one.
Audacious 1708 journey into the native Southeast. His bold plan was to expand Carolina's trade in fur, deerskins, and native slaves deep into the continent. By offering better goods at better prices, Nairn's scheme sought to disconnect.
Okay, hold on, let's start over here.
Carolina's,
because I think, let's start with this one.
Carolina's Indian agent, Henry Woodward, accompanied the West.
And so what we're looking at, so I can tell you what we're looking at. We're looking at South Carolina, Charlestown, Geechee area, Chicora. These are some of the areas, other tribes, Catafachique, Esau, Kimbahi, and I forget the name of that one. But, Kumbahi or something like that. But either way, this is the area we're looking at. And this is a map from 1682, okay? Whoops.
Carolina's Indian agent, Henry Woodward, accompanied the Westos to their settlement in 1674. He described their town as being built in a confused manner. Its ramshackle longhouses bristled with poles that displayed the scalps of those that Westo fighters had killed, and the place was crowded with raiding canoes and young Indian slaves.
It was crowded with what? Young Indian slaves? Now, first of all, that's by the Westos, and the Westos apparently were another Indian tribe, so you're talking about Indian on Indian slavery right here, all right? But let's go forward, see what else.
Indian slaves. The Westers were a power to be reckoned with. Their community was a mobile, militarized encampment of slavers preying on their neighbors, the Kusabos, the Catawbas, the Appalachians, the Timucuans, and others. The only interior town that Gascoigne retained from the lord's proprietors.
So just to kind of throw that in there, they've been kind of messing with a lot of the tribes that are somewhat Geechee today, or some of them are still Catawba, Yamasee, Timucua, some of those, but many of them would call themselves Geechee, or some would say Gullah. Excuse me. Down there in the low country. So they were kind of being enslaved, kind of being fucked with, right? I'm kind of keeping that pattern going for a minute because eventually I'm gonna just spoil it. But eventually these tribes, some of these Geechees, these Yamasees, these Timucuas, these people in Wale area, they start to leave to get away from this shit and go to Florida. Now they would say, hey, it was some runaway slaves went to Florida and became Seminoles. Well, they want you to believe it was some runaway Africans. But let's listen to this real quick. Let's keep going.
First map of Carolina was Esau, which was labeled as Usheri on the original map. Esau stood alone as a representative of Catawba society on this second map, which displayed Esau at the head of the watery river. The final native place on the Gascoigne map was Cofita-Chequi. Hernan de Soto famously visited the chiefdom of Cofita-Chequi during his violent entrada of 1539 through 1542. He and his Spanish troops raided the temple in its territory, taking its stock of pearls as well as stores of maize.
Pearls.
When the Spanish returned,
taking a stock of pearls. Now, I got a whole thing about Indians and pearls, but we'll keep going.
To the region in the 1560s, they stationed troops in Cofita-Chequi, but native people rose up against them, killing 130 soldiers and driving Spain back to its bastion of St. Augustine on the coast. When the English arrived more than a century...
Now, I'm going to go forward from this one because I remember this story. Now, this one's more playing on to the fact that, not playing, but talking about the fact that how Catafuchique just eventually just kind of just it disappears out of existence. And it's one of the times they say that they no longer are mentioned in books, even though the people are still there. But, you know, whatever. That's a whole nother. Let me get to this one.
Agents' audacious 1708
we heard that.
Forced settlers and enslaved Africans to flee behind Charleston's walls. The Indian warriors killed hundreds, slaughtered livestock, and put plantations to the torch. As South Carolina rebuilt after the devastation, the Crown took the colony over from the proprietors. To stabilize Britain's southern continental frontier, this new royal government built new forts, ended the Indian slave trade, and sought to forge new diplomatic relationships with these Indian adversaries.
So first of all, a few things. You got something about an Indian slave trade. Now, nobody even really heard the term like that. Now, we have. We talk about it. But when we talk about it, people will call us pseudo or whatever, right? But here you have a Library of Congress historian saying there was an Indian slave trade. And they was ending it to a degree, damn near 1711. But that's, you know, that's supposed to be time where they already got some so-called Africans, which they try to mention that. Now, listen to this.
Forced settlers and enslaved Africans to flee behind Charleston's walls.
So they said that basically some Indians, because I kind of caught the tail end of it, some Indians had got into it with some South Carolinian settlers. And apparently they said they had some Africans with them at the time, African slaves, right? And he says that they go and fight them, they killing them and forced a lot of them to go back over to the fort walls where they are safe and away from, you know, out of the whatever. So what I'm getting to with that is that kind of helps to show, like, they try to say even if there was Africans brought in by this time, and even if there were some there, even though, which doesn't make sense because they just said that there was an Indian slave trade, right? Why bring over Africans when you got Indians? But, okay, we'll go with it. So, the next thing is like, this is talking about South Carolina, Florida area. Remember with the Seminoles, what they try to tell you is that some escaped Africans left from the Carolina area and went into Florida, and they joined in with the red natives, right? And they started fighting and living side by side and whatever, and they became their protectors and all this other stuff. Well, what do you mean the black slaves that was just fleeing over the walls from the Indians became the protectors? That don't make sense. They were just fleeing over the walls from some Indians. Who are they gonna protect you from? And how come they wasn't fighting the YTs? How come they didn't join the Indians then in fighting the YTs? Right? When you think more into the story that they tell you. So economically would have made sense to go to Africa once you saw the workforce here. Exactly. You got to travel with these people and get them all over there and all this other stuff and provide provisions for them and this and that. Pay for them. Some lady was like, "You don't understand." Somebody said on a panel like 2 days ago. It was like, trying to spit little facts. It was easy. Excuse me. Excuse me. She was like, "You don't understand. It was easy for them to just go to Africa because they could just purchase them and blah, 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 and whatever." I was like, why would you purchase some Africans when you can go enslave you some Indians for free? That don't make no sense to me either. So I'm going to go buy me some Africans, spend the time to go over there, buy them, bring enough food and drink for them to get all the way across this damn voyage. Seems very inefficient, yeah. My bad, I had to also get my damn charger. Bring enough food and drink for them to also get through this voyage. Hopefully they don't die. All kind of craziness. And I was gonna watch Roots tonight with people, but I ain't even gonna lie, man. I was like, you know what? Let me watch like a taste of it because I ain't seen it in forever, and that shit was so boring and weird and off and annoying. I was like, you know what, man? I'm not gonna do this. I ain't finna watch this shit with nobody. I can't even watch it all the way through myself. I thought it still had it up. I must have closed it out. That's how much I said, hell no. But I feel like I should watch it because I could probably make a lot of good content out of it, out of debunking like a whole bunch of shit in there. But oh well. Okay, so back to so that's the story. But here we're talking about the Indians being slave traded as late as possibly the 1700s, right? And this is just the South Carolina area. Who knows where else it was happening? Which really we were the slaves. So again, he's talking about there being an Indian slave trade. You don't really have Indians, except for us, our people. You don't really have those $5 sit there with stories saying that they were ever enslaved. You never hear it. You never hear it. And so, and then also you will hear those $5 folks say that they own slaves. So let's tackle that for a second. And before we tackle that, I'm going to show you just a few excerpts of like people being enslaved or taking away some Indians or some shit. Now see, I hate when I don't have the passages already highlighted. I'm gonna have to like highlight the passages, re-screenshot these. So I'm not sitting here doing all this. He was absent about 3 months from the coast. I sit here. That shit, 2,500, 200. I think that's not one. That was for like a. Let's see, what is that? A peer review of Atlanta more. The person showing the Constitution derived from the Hebrews. Pervasion. This is something about them being the Hebrews. I must have put that in the wrong shit. Slaves were divided into reparamentos. So, like right here on this page, slave, and this is Chat GPT. That's likely the page that I translated. But it talks about I believe they're talking about the Caribs and some Spaniards. Yeah, the Spaniards had arrived. Let's see. All these things passed into memory onto the lips of the priests who sang to them when the Spaniards arrived. Many Indians remembered and sang the songs in the wars, but in the end they lost all the lands and ceremonies. The idols were torn down, temples and altars, the children and elders perished. Slaves were divided into reparamentos, so that as they worked more than usual, they perished, some by hunger, others by labor, others by smallpox, and many others by infirmities. My bad, let me do it like that. And others by infirmities. Others hanged themselves or took poisons from plants, and even mothers unalived their children, some hanging them by their necks. And that was going on in, I want to say in the Caribbean right there. Let's see, you got like so many different things. I really don't feel like going through all this. He was bringing slaves, having to read the whole pages. And I say that because I had to read a ton of pages yesterday as I was organizing these. The last thing I really want to do is read a whole page. But anyways, he traveled a good stretch of land where no one had gone before in sight. It is true that later, Sebastian Gaboto had it more extensively charted, but how many Indians did they manage to fit in that caravel? And he brought them against the law and will of the king, and thus he returned to Corunna within 10 months of leaving. When he entered, it was said he was bringing slaves. A neighbor of the city claimed they were cloves, which was one of the spices he intended to bring. The news spread letters of... So like right here, in this paragraph, you talk about Indians being brought over again by somebody else on boats. And this time also being labeled as cargo, right? They'd be like, we were labeled as cargo when they took the Africans, right? So here you got Indians being labeled as cargo, right? So it was happening in many different areas. And I can show many different things, but we're going to go up here and look and kind of tackle the idea that Indians own slaves, because the $5 Siberian really doesn't have a place, to be honest with you, because that shows, like, when people say they really didn't start showing up until like the late 1800s, early 1900s, that shit is pretty much true. They don't really have a place. And what I mean by that is I'm about to show you the slave owners, and that's one of their descendants right there. This YT dude with the glasses. They were one of the slave owners of the tribe, the biggest slave owners of the tribe. So now you got to think, when your $5 Siberians don't have stories of being enslaved, taken away to Spain, all that other shit, whatever that's on here. They don't have those stories. They try to say they do have the story of being slave owners, but when you look at the slave owners, we about to see who they was. So then you start to think, well, where the hell was y'all at? Okay, let's listen.
Farming techniques to adopt agricultural practices that patterned after the whites, and one of those in the South was slave trade.
I don't ever talk about it very much because I think it's a very shameful part of Cherokee history, and so I purposely avoided involving myself in that whole issue.
While the current chief may be ashamed, at the Cherokee Museum today are slave bills of sale, including one for 3 slaves bought in 1841 by then Principal Chief John Ross. The chief and his brother Lewis were among the biggest slaveholders in the tribe.
So here you got these two guys were among the biggest slave owners in that particular tribe, right? They're nobody's Indian, okay? If you think that's an Indian, you know, I don't know what to tell you, okay? He looks like and he doesn't look like one either. I don't know what the hell he looks like. He looks like a Italian, Middle Eastern mixed with a YT kind of thing going on with them deep set eyes or something going on. I don't know. He look kind of whatever. Yeah. See, yeah. East Indian. Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah. East Indian maybe in YT. Like they was really playing with us on the goddamn. Somebody said Portuguese Spaniard. I can see that. Well, you know what? I don't know what a Portuguese person looks like. I'd have to look that up. Okay. But yeah, like we didn't know likely what all these phenotypes look like. On top of that, we didn't know what all these mixed phenotypes look like either. And so it's like easy to play games. It's easy to play games now. If this dude put on a sombrero and spoke it in English, spoke it in Spanish, y'all wouldn't think nothing of it. That nigga Mexican. Fuck it. What am I supposed to think? You know, but now we got to start looking at people and really thinking like, some of these people been colonizing. So like when you look at a lot of modern day YT Mexicans, a lot of them are Arabs or Spaniards. A lot of the real YT looking ones. And like if I was to pull that up, let's say light skinned Mexican people. Let's see what pulls up under that. I ain't never done that before. Alright, so let's take a look at some of these people for real. So, I mean, these are obvious, right? Super YT, right? I don't even know why the hell they being pulled up. Now, what is she? What is she? That's a questionable one. That would be a pro boxer Canelo. You might have talked about the other person. Asian, yeah, she actually does have a distinct Mongolian. You know what? She almost looks Asian, like Chinese and East Indian mixed. She's closer to us to a degree, but she looks East Indian to me with some slanted eyes, almost like. You know, these people, you see it? Say, yeah, this is a Mexican Asian. That's definitely the Asiatic something. Filipino, could be a Filipino East Indian. Could be. Because I feel like that dark skin with that hair is still coming from over there, but she's got an Asiatic look to her, you know? But she's Mexican. Mexico Daily, right? Mexico Daily News. She's going to speak the Spanish. Let's see. Light-skinned Latina. What is she? What do you think she is? This is a good Arab. Yeah. Very, more like a maybe Syrian Arab than a Afghani Arab. Maybe I could see that. European, yeah, pretty much. I would say European, possibly European mixed with Arab, possibly European Arab mix. That could be a possibility. But she speaks Spanish, you know, right? So we're gonna go with it. That's just funny. That's just funny as hell. She's straight from Switzerland or some shit, wherever them gingers come from, right? Let's say, like, these are just funny. Like, those are just funny. What about her? Now, we would take this to normally be a real down home Guadalupe rat making, homemade rat making motherfucker. But what is it for real though? Well, a Mexican is just really a mix. What do you think what do you think she mixed with? She looks to me like almost like Siberian, almost, but like a really, like the real big hefty ones, almost like your sumo wrestler like type Hawaiian, like Siberian, or what do you call Mongolian? My bad, Mongolian versus Siberian. Siberian is more like a lighter Asiatic. Mongolian is more like a middle ground between an East Indian and an Asian, in my opinion. I guess maybe Asian and Arab. There's a possible Asiatic in there, but you know, see these people be playing games. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, and I'm gonna tell y'all like this. I mean, I live in Dallas, and when you go to some of these places, like I was in Ross on one side of town one time, and it's in a heavy Spanish area, right? We call them Spanish because they all speak in Spanish. We got to call them by the English name. I mean, by the language they speak versus by what they actually are, because we don't know what the hell these people are because they be playing games. So what up, Dallas, Texas? Yeah. And so you probably know. So like I was in like a Ross one time, picking up like some little decorative shits in the back, and then I get into this long line. And I noticed that everybody around me is speaking Spanish. It's a real long line. But then I started looking at everybody. I was like, why do y'all all look so different, dude? Some of y'all looking like straight Asians, you know, just all kinds of different looks. I can't even explain it. And I was just like, but y'all all speaking Spanish, dude. I said, y'all playing games, man. Now, that's a real indigenous woman. No, Mr. Gonzalez, that's what you probably want us to believe. Yeah, and when I look at your avatar, he's one of those. He's one of these. One of these Mexicans. Yes, she is, and you are African. Nah. She's just a fat Mongolian. That's all it is. Just you trying to give her the extra Mexican indigeneity because she fat than a bitch. That means she eats a lot of pork. So that means she's indigenous because of the beans and shit she eats. And you're from Africa, like that's gonna make me feel some kind of way, nigga. When you over here looking like a Arab white man mixed that speaks Spanish with the last name Gonzalez. Nigga just all kind of fucked up. He said Spain colonized Mexico and they brought you from Africa. Okay, so you know about the basic Wikipedia shit. What else you got? Spain imported your people. No, if we look at some of the, things, some of the Moors did come over with some of these Spaniards, and I'll show you a quick little something. But some of the Moors did come over with some of these Spaniards, but they wasn't slaves. They was normal workers, and they had free societies. Actually, let me just show Mr. Gonzalez how wrong he is here, real quick. And stick around, Mr. Gonzalez. I do like the clown. So let's just, and this will be a good little learning lesson for y'all to see. It's one of these, and it wasn't many. Also, Lucas Vasquez de Alion was shown not to, as you can see, like this is the Archienega expedition. Not that many people came from little part of Africa, and the few that did came from the very super top. Those would have likely been some Arabs, but they could have been some Moors. They would have been, Moors that was already up in here, and then, y'all know the Moors had control of Europe prior to the fall of Granada, and then after that, 1492, they send Columbus out. But this is one of them, and they actually have some of the breakdowns of the percentages. But not that many people even came over on this boat. 1,500 people, and out of that 1,500, a very small people amount. You see how many people came up out of Spain itself? That's how many people came up out of Spain. Okay. So very, very few of the Moors came through. But even though some Moors did come through, look at that. Confirmed black-owned properties by 1764. So ain't that funny? They came over on the expedition and got property. I thought they were slaves. Somebody said, didn't he say something about that being slave? They ship your people to the Americas, to Europe. He put the laughing emoji as if he's really laughing. No, sir. Do you see this confirmed black property owners from the expedition? I thought Spain brought over slaves to work the fields like dogs. No, sir. It was likely you working the fields like a dog. Let me show you what he was doing, y'all. Let me show y'all. Where is it at? I got it right here. Where is it at? You know what? I just actually saved it, so I know where it's at. A faster way to get to it. This is what he was afraid of right here. I'm gonna show him a couple things that he's afraid of. Oh, you know what? I know what folder it is. I know what folder it is in. Right here. So, see, back in the days, y'all was kind of afraid of a few things, Mr. Gonzalez. Where's my damn receipt at, man? Hold on. He gonna leave up out of here before I show the receipt. Oh, no, here you go. This right here. This is what y'all was afraid of right here. What I found in the Library of Congress. Y'all was afraid to get us holding y'all by y'all hair and beating the shit out of y'all. Look, who's back there working? Who's back there carrying shit while niggas is over here dancing a jig? Niggas is over here dancing a jig, fully clothed. And what y'all doing over there? What y'all working? What was y'all getting your ass beat? Please, sir. Please don't beat me. I'm just a confused Spaniard YT Arab speaking Spanish. Shut your ass up. Get your ass back on that motherfucking field, okay? You don't think that's real, huh? Okay, let me show you in the newspapers. Let me show you what y'all was afraid of in the newspapers. This is good for the folks. Okay. So we're going to jump to, in the newspapers, you had something like this. Where are you at? Right here. You ever heard of Harrison's Law? It says the Whig Central Committee, and this is in 1840, just so you know. The Whig Central Committee have come out with an address, the chief object which is to induce the people to believe that Harrison's Law for selling and whipping white men and women applied to criminals only. Did you know you could be sold and whipped? Not just sold, but whipped, Mr. Gonzalez. But let's just talk about it a little bit. They said, hey, because they was afraid that a Negro might buy you. They said, hey, we quoted from a contemporary who says there are many acts which in themselves are not in any way criminal, which are made offenses by prohibition. For example, a poor girl has remarked, carrying her butter to the market, trots her horse across a bridge, is prosecuted and unable to pay the fines and costs, and is sold into slavery. And a Negro becomes her purchaser, who may whip her with 39 stripes on her bare back if she attempts to escape. Oh, Mr. Gonzalez. What's up with the slave stories, man? Mr. Gonzalez, I thought we came over as slaves. I'm showing you some of the first ones that came over was owning some of the Moors that came over was owning property. I'm showing you clips of y'all getting the shit beat out of you with a sugar cane stick. What that motherfucker they beat his ass with a sugar cane stick. and let me show you the Michelangelo's Michelangelo was making sculptures and paintings calling it the dying slave, Did you know that? Did you know Michelangelo painted the dying slave and he didn't look YT? This is what he looked like. Michelangelo slaves. Y'all ever seen Michelangelo slaves? Yeah. Your name is of English origin and aren't English. Oh, wait a minute. You talking about English names? Let me up. You just keep wondering. You are bringing up some amazing information, man. We was already gonna hit on this topic, cause you see here, who was given English names for real? If y'all was to go to the National Archives records, cause we was gonna get on identity theft, right? I told y'all that, right? Indian Family Register. Look at that. Why? We're gonna pull up Indian families being registered. When are they being registered? I told y'all these fools didn't really get here until like the late 1800s in the night. Look at that. They're registering Indian families. How are they registering these Indian families? Let's take a look inside the register book. Okay? We're going to go down some pages in the register book until we can find some sections here for Mr. Gonzalez. Because Mr. Gonzalez believes that we got our English names from the YT man. But we're going to show something of the contrary. Because when you go to the English Indian families of registers, what you will notice are Indian names, and they're being given English names. I'm glad you said that, Mr. Gonzalez, because my people needed to see this. My people needed to see Indians being given English names. But you know what, Mr. Gonzalez? Right? Now these, let me keep going. Let me show y'all ones that got actual names on it, because that's got dates. That's kind of odd. But let me show you one with some names on them. Okay, here we go. Whoops, wrong one. Hold up. Let me go. That's the second page of that page. Yeah. No, we're gonna see this. And I've also found it on the Gillian Rose. We're gonna get to that. I don't know why this is tripping. Hold up. Let me refresh. We're also gonna get to the Gillian Rose, because on the Gillian Miller Rose, they did the same thing. Giving away names. Why would you give away names? You know what? Let me go into the second volume. I'm gonna show y'all. Hold up. Register of Indian Families. I haven't seen that one. Let me go to that one. I'm gonna have to retype it too. Register of Indians by Finland. That shit official to the motherfucker, ain't it? So let me find your little sections. English name. Now this one's typed out so we can see it a lot easier. Indian name, English name. Now these have some random names, but you have some Smiths in there. You have a Wolf in there. We're going to get to some because as I've shown on many, and I might have some already saved. Let me see if I got some already saved in here under my identity theft folder, instead of having to search through all the damn pages. Where you at? Oh, wait a minute. It might be under this one, too. I got a folder that said it's called Natives Weren't Here. The natives were not here. I don't have it up under that one, so they got to be under identity theft. It got to be up under here. That's not it. I thought I had me some screenshots. Unless they're on my MacBook. Let me look at my MacBook Pro real quick. You know, stick around, Mr. Gonzalez. You're going to look like a fool. But I'm about to get back to the lesson, to be honest with you, too. But let me find this. Well, where in the hell? Okay. Records. Okay. Slave propaganda. Identity theft. There we go. There we go. There we go. All right, let me show you. Instead of me having to find all the ones, like I literally had to go through, I literally have been through a lot of those pages. But as you can see, I have many of those pages right here. So we're going to look at some of these names, some of these surnames given away. And then we'll look at some people that also got some of our surnames too. So as you can see, there's the Indian name and there is the English name. And so don't ever let them keep telling you that whole thing. Oh, you got the YT man's name. Because really, everybody took our name. White T-men took our name, and they also gave our names away to these folks. Because I'm going to show you that. So, like, I'm going to show you through many different ways. But you see this last name persons are payer. Let's go to the next one. You got some Johnsons, Ball, Prophet, Harden, Prophet, or Proffer or something. You got some Penn, Jackson, Watkins, Mitchell, Lincolns. You got people getting Woodbury. I know a bunch of Woodburys in Oklahoma. A lot of reverends that were Woodburys. Where'd they get these names from? Walker, Young, White. Where'd they get these names from? Where they? I'd have to turn this around. I ain't trying to do all that. Stone, Schla, whatever that is, Shepherd, St. Clair. Well, they gave y'all the name St. Clair. Stone, See, the reason why your name is Gonzalez and not one of these English names is because you're still a fucking Spaniard. That means you've only been mating with Spaniards to keep y'all's names and shit together. You incest bastards. Okay. Mitchell, Mackey, Mitchell, Ola, and y'all know they be kissing cousins. And you got, so some of y'all probably seen some surnames that are probably your family. Jones. How'd they get the last name Jones and John and Jones and Chapman and Coon, Campbell. I know some people, my ex-wife Campbell's, and different ones. So they were given, what's up, Pistol? They were given English names. So Mr. Gonzalez, you said we was given English names, but I just showed where you all were given English names, but technically you all got our names. But let me show y'all another receipt, because that ain't enough to just show you that. We got to show how these people really did take our names, and I'm going to show you a yearbook. Did I say? I hope I saved that yearbook, so I ain't got to go fucking find it again. Please tell me I did. Yes. Okay. Bad. Man, I would have hated. Last time I was on a live stream, it took me forever to find this. So this is 1957, Mr. Gonzalez. Who's at the Chicolocan so-called boarding school in 1957, Mr. Gonzalez? Well, let's go down and take a little peek inside their yearbook, okay? Look, we have some names here. Names given to people who look like they're fresh off the boat from somewhere else. Are these people indigenous, Mr. Gonzalez? Well, let's look at the indigenous names over here in 19 goddamn 50, okay? Now, one that's in particular important is you see Bruner? Well, here's the lady with the last name Bruner. Also from the Oklahoma area. Very, very, very funny. Because my old best friend, his last name was Bruner. Is Bruner. So with his family, and he was a card-carrying Seminole. None of them looked like goddamn Japanese people. Okay? Like this person, who looks like she's straight off of the boat from the Philippines. She looks like she would be taking your order on a cruise boat. Right? All the Filipinos work on the cruise ships. Okay? In fact, let me shut up. So, but she has the last name Bruner. Where did she get that last name in 1957? Well, Mr. Gonzalez, I'll just keep using you as a punching bag. Let me show you some people who had that name prior to that. You had people like Caesar Bruner. Okay, notice the last name Bruner. Notice the heavy melanation. Okay, playing no games. He was born between, really it was 1813. I don't know where they got this 1828 from, and I'm going to show you that. Why is he important? Because he has a whole Seminole plaque after him. If I have it on here, I probably have to just Google it. Let me Google it. He's so easily Googleable, Caesar Bruner. And what is this going to do? This is going to prove that people with black-looking skin have had the Bruner last name since the early 1700s. Now, first of all, he was born in 1813. He was the head of the Caesar Bruner Band, okay? Mr. Gonzalez, okay? So the Bruner name has been with these folks at least until 1813, but guess what? We have a picture of his grandfather. Now, his dad would put his dad being likely born in the late 1700s, but his grandfather would be born sometime in the early to mid 1700s. And his name was still Bruner. Okay, I wonder if I can see it there. Monday Dindy, and then it says Freeman, but it's Monday Dindy Bruner. Okay, and he had a wife, Mr. Gonzalez. You want to see who his wife was? I don't think you're gonna like this, but that's his wife. One of your folks, Mrs. Elizabeth Manuel. She said, you know what? She gonna get her some of that BBC, Playboy. She went ahead and mixed that Spaniard blood on her. And it became an Indian. You know what I'm saying? Where she at now? They gone. Don't be fucking with us, man. We gonna wipe you out. We gonna wipe you out. Okay. Cause it went from him to Mr. Caesar Bruner. Where, let me get back. It went from him, then it went to Caesar Bruner, up here, way up here. Where'd it go? Then it went to Caesar Bruner, bow. You know what I'm saying? And then it went all the way to my best friend, because my best friend is who tied they family back to him to be card-carrying Seminoles. And Seminoles, he would say, oh, yeah, I was freemen. He put the word freeman in there. They were never slaves. Their last war was fought in 1856. And they did not lose the war. They were very much so damaged. But they ended up just taking a treaty, and some accepted to leave Florida and some stayed in Florida. So they didn't lose. And when they went to Oklahoma in 1856, slavery ended in 1865, there was nobody slaves. In fact, let's let a man tell you that. Let's let one of these people tell you that.
That come with their guns on. So you see the freedom came here with their guns on. Come, but that come with their guns on. So you see the freedom came here with their guns on.
He said they said that the freemen were slaves to the Indians, but slaves don't wear no guns. He said we came here with our guns. And you won't tell me I was a slave, nigga? Slaves don't wear no guns, playboy. Okay, well, what you mean? You'd have had to face the guns, playboy. Okay, let me quit. What you mean? I was y'all slaves. On top of that, we was the ones that was y'all fighters. Hold on, let me show you that.
This documents their close relationship. Blacks became chiefs, signed treaties, and served on the tribal council. They intermarried. They were equals, Opala says, and the Indians depended on them as warriors and interpreters.
Now, when they say Indians in here, depending on them as warriors and interpreters, you have to understand that's the propaganda of the game. Who are the Indians at this point? What do your Indian Seminoles look like today? Well, your Indian Seminoles today look like Mr. Gonzalez. He probably left. Seminole Indians of today. Images. You know, many of them look like Mr. Gonzalez, right? Playing games, right? Knowing damn well the Seminoles, we're going to get to actual authentic photos of the Seminoles and some of the old Spaniard Seminoles that have been here as well. But they were Spaniards before, but all of a sudden they're Seminoles, right? All of a sudden they're indigenous, right? Now, this is who they tout, who would be, these are the lookership, like this is one right here. This is the lookership of the people on this side of the United States that claim to be Indians. They look like Arabs mixed with Spaniards. Some look like Spaniards, straight Spaniards, or Asiatics and Spaniards, right? A nigga can take, if he takes this off and puts on a construction outfit, it was the construction outfit that did it for me. You wouldn't know shit. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't get, you Indian for real? Nigga, I thought you was, but you out here doing construction. Anyway, so this is what they look like today, right? So either way, we was the warriors. The black people were the warriors and the interpreters. How are we interpreting for you? But either ways, let's see who were some of those Seminoles in the Gilcrease archives that were the red versus the black. Were they some Hawaiian Siberian looking Indians, or were they some Spaniard looking Indians like this guy right here that looks like Mr. Gonzalez? Mr. Gonzalez! Is he still in here? He probably ain't even in here. I'm gonna stop saying his name, because he probably been done left. I'm tired of this dude. All this shit he keep pulling up. Yeah, he been done left. But Mr. Gonzalez, not just playing. But yeah, this is one of your Spaniards, okay, that was listed as a damn Seminole right there in the Gilcrease archives. But so was this guy. Well, what the hell is this guy? Right? What the hell is that? That's not a Seminole. But, okay. But also, this guy was listed as a Seminole. Where the hell he come from? That was the first thing I thought. Where in the hell did he come from? It's not no goddamn Seminole. And I don't even understand what this dude is, to be honest with you. A Turk? He got the fat turban on his motherfucking head like, nigga, that is not Seminole headdress. Sometimes I guess they might wear a little something, but, let's look at some real Seminoles. This is one. Fully melanated. Whether her kid is mixed or not, I really can't tell. But it may not be. We start lighter and we get darker. My kid started off looking somewhere like that, to be honest. But that was a Seminole. You also had people like This in the archives, your Seminoles. Okay. Ain't no denying. That's a Seminole, right? Same archives. You got people like this in there. So dark, the pictures can barely get them all in that motherfucker, right? Is he puffing on that gas? I think he puffing on that gas. Yeah, go ahead with it, Seminole. All right. Some real Seminoles. Some real Seminoles. Okay. Some real Seminoles. Right there. And so, yeah, these people are who my folks were from. Now, I'm going to show you this. Now, this person I know, or I don't know him like that, to be honest. But this just goes into this whole mixture. Now, if you look at him, you would think that that guy is a, what's up, True Master? Appreciate it. You would think, like, he could be a Mexican. He could also be an Iranian, right? Or a Middle Easterner or something like that, right? What exactly is he? Well, she claims to be Mexican, to be honest. But what is she? She, in my opinion, looks straight up Filipino. Chile. I wouldn't even give her anything in America. I think she's like Filipino or some kind of Asian. But Filipino, because the eyes aren't as pronounced as some of the Asians. Ain't as slanted and thinned. But they claim to be, a lot of Filipinos and Chinos claim to be Chinos, right? Well, how did she get this son with this darker skin? She was with a black American. And why am I showing this? Because this literally shows you how you can create a whole nother race. we see these melanated folks going around here, and we be like, well, they must have had, but not all of them had one of us in them. Now, yeah, she was with a black American, and it came out like that. Now, if she would have got with an African, it'd have came out like this too, but different. Still this copper color, though, which is why I'm showing this. Still the same copper color to a degree. So these people, what I'm proving to you, and I'll show you in a book, these people would come here, settle here. They would live amongst the Indians, but that don't mean that they're mating and mixing with the Indians. People don't mix and mate with us all that much now. They do here and there. But like typically they would mix amongst the people themselves that they already with. Now, this ain't the similar thing. She did mix with somebody else, obviously. But typically, people would mix amongst themselves. And so, like, the Spaniards would come over here with some Moors. They would have these copper-colored kids, and these copper-colored kids would go try to cloak their way into our societies. Go be with your women, go be with your men. And I ain't gonna be mad because I'd hollered at some of them. They do be looking good, the girls. I ain't saying nothing about the men. Some of them mixes be looking pretty good. Some of them be looking weird. But either way, so let's get on to back to the slavery thing. Let me get back to the slavery thing. But you know what? I want to show y'all this real quick because this right here, while we're on the topic of the Seminoles, this is going to help to show erasure. Now, this is Billy Bowlegs the third. He was a chief. Okay. Now, notice he has a high amount of melanation as well as straight hair. Okay. And they did wear the little turbans and shit. So I can't say that they didn't. Because once after I said that, I started to remember. I was like, you know what? I think they did wear like some big ass headwear. So here's another one. This is on the Osceola History website about Florida, Osceola, Florida History website. So yeah, he was Chief Billy Bowlegs, right? Well, in his later years, let me show you here. Here's him and his wife. I think that's his wife. Or somebody. I don't know. I don't want to just say that. But I think it is his wife when I read the caption. But here was some YT folks, okay? She's got the Seminole traditional dress. She's heavily melanated. She looks like she don't like nobody there. Okay? And you know, there he go, right? Well, in his later years, he still has a high amount of melanation. I found photographs of him in his later years. Okay? Now, why is this important? I appreciate y'all being in here. Nah, Billy Bowlegs ain't no Mexican. That ain't nothing I've ever heard. And I know a lot of Black Americans today that hold the Bowlegs, naming structure. They got the naming structure. They got the Bowlegs surname, and they all black. Same people that look like us. They don't look like no Mexican. And they trace their family back to this Bowlegs. So he's not that. They just had that straight hair. Cause he looks Mexican right there, but when we get older, all that shit starts to shrivel up and we start looking like everybody else. But right here, he don't look like nobody Mexican. Right there, I don't think he looked like a Mexican. Right there, he just looked like a black Hitler. Right there. Here goes some more. Like, look at that one right there. He don't look like no Mexican to me. He look like a black rapper right there. He look like a black American rapper. About to bust a flow on the motherfucker right now. That's what it look like. This is a look that I've never seen before. Right? There's many different looks of Billy Bowlegs, but when he got older, you could say he started to look like that, you know. But he still kept up a good amount of melanin in his skin. But when you go to the Seminole Tribe website, they list pictures of everybody. They went with this picture for Billy Bowlegs. Why would they do? Where did this picture come from? And why is it so washed out? They couldn't. Was it an accident? They was taking it with a Polaroid. Hold on, let me move this so I can see y'all's what you call it. A little bit better. We learned in kindergarten. What do you say? We learned in kindergarten how colors are made in the crayon box. Floridian, that's the look I've never seen for a while. Yeah, straight hair and dark skin, except those from India. Well, this is how they're making them look right there. It's like a person from India. But that's not how he really looks. And we've all seen how he really looks. That photo is very much desaturated in a sense. Almost purposely desaturated to remove even more of the melanin that exists in his skin. Because they do that. They do stuff like that. He Middle Eastern. No, he's not Middle Eastern. Y'all tripping. That man's not Middle Eastern. Does that look like a Middle Eastern to you? That's not a Middle Eastern. And all his folks trace their people back here. And Billy Bowlegs was there. So, I wanted to show that. We're going to get back onto the slavery topic. We were talking about Indian slaves. So we just got off of looking at how some of the main slave traders in the tribes were YT folks with last names like Mankiller. That's real funny, right? Chief of the Cherokee Nation, right? And then you got the John Rosses and them. So we know that YT folks owned some slaves, but they tell you that Indians own slaves. But Indians did own Indians, or YT folks own Indians, as I have here and show in my paperwork from my own folks all the time. This is the Freedman paperwork, but in his Freedman paperwork, he says that he is full-blood Indian. Okay, they didn't ask him that, but he said it at one point when they was asking him about his age. But at the same time, being full-blood Indian, he was a slave of a Chickasaw YT person with the name of Jackson. And sometimes they'll ask flat out, was he a YT whatever, or a half-breed, or a Chickasaw, whatever, as far as slave master goes. So I got all that, you know what I'm saying? I got proof, and we can prove that Indians own Indians, or YT folks own black Indians. We can also prove in our own genealogies that we were enslaved in some cases. Some cases we wasn't. And then we also looked at the slave schedules earlier and saw some of the trickery that kind of was going on between how they switched it up each year to kind of remove YT folks from being listed up under black people who were head of household, who had plantations. And also we looked at how the slave schedule included a lot of children, okay? And counting them as slaves, just counting anybody that was there as a slave, just for the hell of it. Let me see, there was something else. Oh yeah, identity theft. So we hinted on that when Mr. Gonzalez was in here. But let's look at it a little bit further. I need to stop. Okay. And I got some on here, and I got some on there. Hold on 1 second. All right. So, identity theft. Now, I showed you how English names were given away to the Indians that came here later, the $5 submit. Oh, did I call them Indians? Oh my God. The $5 natives that came here later. I showed you how they got some of our names. Now let's look at how some of these people ended up with some of our surnames as well. Now, I might pull the ones up from my computer. Let me put my computer over here. Okay, let's go up. Oh yeah, the other ones are under the Thomas Love. These people don't have our surnames, but I want you to see them, because these should be what you should normally see when a person comes over. Okay, so when you see these people coming over, and they're from Germany, right? You should see people with last names like Schneppel. Okay, let's look at somebody else. Coming over, he's Polish, and his last name is Rikowski. Rikowski? I don't know. But that's their last name, right? You got last names like, oh, that's the same one, Rikowski. She comes over from Lithuania. Her last name is Bruoizis, something. Okay, that's some normal last names. I thought we got the YT's last names. Lithuanian. She's Zarkreski, formerly Navarduski. Okay. Mr. Preco. Eggleston, okay, Eggleston, coming out of England. Eggleston. Hoffman, coming out of Germany, and all that. So you see, these are the kind of names you should see in that sense. But let's take a look at, like, let's say these. Then you got to start asking, how does some of these people... Here we go. Let me see how far down that goes. Okay. How did some people end up like him? Now, he came over from he's Scotland, came over with the last name Love. Now, that's not too far-fetched because the Love last name has some type of tie to Europe of just Scotland and Ireland. But he's completely different looking from some of our Loves. But okay, we're going to go with it. Okay, let's go up. Coming from that place wouldn't be too bad. This is another person's paperwork. But they came from Austria. So how did Leopold get the Love surname from Austria, as well as we got people coming from from Scotland? Okay, well, let's keep going. This person's coming from... I don't know what the hell that says. Gino Navine. I don't know what the hell that says, to be honest with you. And nothing else indicates what it was, but he got the last name Love. Let's see. Let's keep going. Oh, I already did that one. Hold up. Going the wrong way. You got this person being admitted. He is a person named, last name Love. It doesn't say where he came from. Doesn't say where he came from. But he is an immigrant. Another immigrant took on the last name Love. And they are from Scotland. So we'll take that one. You got a Mary Love from Algeria. Or Man on the Arrival on the SS Algeria, or it might not be from Algeria. Hold up, let me see. Possibly were. But these are immigrants coming over because these people were assigned names, just like the $5 Siberians were. You have a Love here. Where does it say that they're coming from? It says... Where does it say they're coming from? Handwriting is crazy. I immigrated to here. Right I was born in Nova Scotia. I see it now. Halifax, Nova Scotia. Coming over here. Okay. That's kind of odd. Love, Russian. Coming over, getting the last name Love. That's why I showed you those Russian names like Karowowski or some bourgeoisie, whatever it's called, or whatever. Say, I'm First Nations. I'm other First Nations. What is that? What does that mean, Mr. God's Army? I'm First Nations. What is a First Nation? Think about that, y'all. What the hell is a First Nation? Because they'll come up with any phrase. And this is the dumbass one that done came up. What is a nation? Well, let's look at a motherfucking etymology dictionary. Since Mr. First Nations is in here for a second. A nation, right? A race of people, a group, people with common ancestry and language, from Proto-French, Ration. So think about it. When he's saying he's First Nation, he's like, the first race of people. That is completely impossible, right? As we all know, hair, is not anybody's natural indigenous hair. Nobody's hair that is super, super straight and just flowing in the wind like a goddamn dead ass antenna, picking up every negative frequency there is to pick up. Would be the first race of people. That doesn't make sense. When does the hair go curly? What you gonna say? Y'all migrated somewhere and got so hot that it curled the hair and made niggas out of y'all? No, sir. What you mean the First Nations? That new word is just so stupid. That new phrase is so stupid because they always trying to change things. Because they're playing a hand in their own erasure. People who don't want to be erased want to keep the original. That's how you stop from being erased. You want to keep the original things that you were, which is why we go over history here, because we try to get back to the original. Okay, that's the whole purpose of history. What's up, everybody up in here? Came on up in here. Got some fine ladies up in here tonight. What's happening with y'all? Okay. Hit the DM. No, just playing. But ain't nobody changing nothing. What do you mean ain't nobody changing nothing? You called yourself Native Americans. Now you say I'm First Nations. What else you gonna change it to? That's not a change, sir. That's not a change. Are you insane? We didn't change it if they were Native Americans of the First Nations. That don't make sense either. You a Native American first race person. So you a Native American don't even make sense because everybody born on this motherfucking landmass that didn't come over on a motherfucking boat or, well, modern times, that didn't come over on a plane. Is a goddamn Native American. Y'all so weird. Y'all don't even know motherfucking definitions. Native American are the First Nations of Turtle Island. He's talking kindergarten talk, guys. He's telling kindergarten stories here today. Let me show y'all the type of stories. Let me show him his people real quick, y'all. Cause this would be, they love to tell their whimsical stories. Now, Turtle Island is, what they like to use, and don't get me wrong, there is some significance to the whole turtle thing, but not with these folks. Like, I'm like, what am I going to? Yeah, like, I'm gonna give y'all a chance to tell your story, and this is what y'all do. This is what y'all tell. This is how y'all tell y'all's history. I'm gonna show you. It's down here somewhere. Because y'all, look, I be asking you what y'all history is. Mr. Gonzalez done left up out of here. Y'all done came up in my live stream. I wasn't even talking about y'all. See, this is what we be talking about. Like we be minding our business on our history. Where is it at? We be minding our business on our history. And next thing you know, a $5 person comes in acting a fool. Or here it goes. Play, ho.
Over again. Is it propaganda or is it truth? Let's listen.
Hold on, I'm gonna fast forward to the crazy. That was gonna take a minute. Hold on. This is they people right here. Hold on.
Some problems. This next story will be told in the Nuchanov language. Nuchanov is also known as Nutka. And this language also is spoken in the state of Washington among the Baka or Kutichagat, the people in Niamey, Washington. And the octopus lady is called Tishloop. It's like putting tissue and look together. Tissue, can you say that? Tissue, that's octopusly. Tissue.
What the fuck is he doing?
And the crow will say, and he go the next time. And then he went to... Ever moved her body?
Look, man.
Watch.
These people in their stories. Hold on. This dude gonna get lost in his story right here. Hold up.
Come get his little cousin.
Coyote always wanted to be something else, something prettier,
Doctor.
something that not everybody's laughed at all the time. At times he set out to prove
You
great
can't.
he was going to be.
Hold on right here. Hold on.
There was a big tall tree. So if we went to
What's going
tall
on?
tree,
They're telling their creation stories. Y'all can't tell. Y'all can't tell. Hold on. Y'all can't tell these people to tell their creation stories. This is their creation stories. Hold on. I want to play one more. One more, if I can find it. That one was kind of slow because that one I was just like making one, but I wasn't trying to make it funny, but it was already funny in itself. But it was kind of a slow one. But the next one I made that bitch hit because people was dying laughing off that first one. Man, you gotta go back. But yeah, these First Nations folks. Like when I talk about these first, these. Oh, here he goes.
Part 2. I want to hear some more of these stories that the so-called Americas.
Long and wiggly at the same time.
Hold on,
Everything
let me
about
find-
them just from us.
Hold on. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? Hold
Out
on.
of the depths of the earth. And her mission was to spin the web.
Oh, hey, something from behind. He was running behind the boat. They came to a place where the river had
They always gotta talk with their hands.
Great deep gorge, there were sharp rocks below, and there, at the edge of that gorge, was a little wigwam with a little bitty old man sitting in front of it smoking a pipe. Ask him nicely, he will help you, said the back. The two children came up to the old man.
Put up Aaronship 1961 Chevrolet Impala. And there's
These people on
pull
drugs.
that hood up. Aaron should pull the check in the oil. Shake. Hey, kalaman ako. Loko. That's
She be making shit up.
Honest, have pity on me. Help me. I won't harm you. All right. But I do so despite my better judgment. So now we swim. Ready? Swim.
Watch out, fish are out there. Takes 2 embers. Ready?
You done got the kids in on it.
Blow on it. It catches fire. You sit there, you weave a bowl, make a nice tight bowl, set it down, put the ember in it.
Heart. First thing is, where's the heart? This side. When the buffalo run, they take their front arm, fish cuts their ribs. You better put it right in between the ribs. The quality you have to have. Physical quality.
This hippie
You can't be
motherfucker.
right-handed. You have to be left-handed. And you're gonna be tall. Stretch that. Left-handed. That side. Sure enough. You pull back.
All that.
Clear to the quills.
What the fuck?
What is he talking about?
He said, I got him. All the Raiders came and they wept.
He said, look. And he pushed him right in the water, and Flipboy, he's made of stone, and so he just sunk. He went right to the bottom and stayed there.
Man, these are
So they say
First
now
Nation
that's why when you
people.
go to a pond and all those bubbles are coming up from the bottom of the pond, it's Flint Boy cussing at Iktomi for pushing him into the bottom of the pond and stealing his bear hide.
I'm gonna start thinking, what am I gonna? Oh, he got an idea.
Hold on, I'm gonna go
Big
to-
pond. And when that buffalo jumps in the water, catfish got something a lot of fish don't have. They got
What is
stingers.
this? Hold up. Oh, yeah.
Hear the beautiful sound.
Unsaid. This is what he said.
One of the idiots in his death throes. This is the time you gotta be careful. As you know, I've been around animals. When they're in their death throes, in a state of denial, in a way, struggling, that last thing, they're very dangerous. But also, if we listen carefully, we can hear the beautiful sound.
Unsaid. This is what he said.
And this is what he said.
This is what he said in English.
And he hits the grass with the
All right, I'm done. All right, I'm done. That nigga, man. That's their stories, man. Look, if you want to know how I found all of those, all I did was type in Native American creation storytelling. I'm telling you, literally, I typed that in, and I got that dude in one of them. There's a bunch of propaganda up right now, but I just went through here. I was like, there's that dude when he was on TED Talks. One of my videos popping up. I literally went here for days finding these motherfuckers, man. And I had used them on one. I had used them on something, I think. And I really was just going through here. But look, the reason why I'm saying this is too, I didn't just like pick and choose. Like I literally went and tried to listen to like some of these to be like, what are they talking about? What's their creation stories? Like, what is it? And then I noticed it was just as crazy and whimsical and changing and people coming up with their own stories no matter what they want to say. It's like everybody's saying whatever the hell they want to say. So if you have oral traditions, that's the most fake person. If you have oral traditions, what made me forget what the hell we was going into that identity theft. And I was showing y'all the ones that I love. I'm gonna show y'all these other ones. But if you have oral traditions and everybody is saying a different oral thing, how the hell do you have an oral tradition? What the hell is y'all keeping orally, nigga? Y'all ain't even keep y'all names. Y'all got English names. Y'all took our names and Spaniard names. That dude probably ain't even still in the chat no more. I'm just... These people are crazy. Said they got them stories that people believed in the 1800s. Yeah, people would just believe it off top just because I'm Indian, so, or I'm Native. They would say I'm Native. They wouldn't say Indian. I'm Native, so let me tell you the story of my people. This was told to us ages ago. That you gotta do it like that. You gotta get a whole voice too. It's like every ending sentence has to have like this upper tone. Or is that an upper tone? Let me see. Yeah, me and my people. They were told many times that we must, and you got to talk slowly too. You definitely got to put the pauses in there and skip a couple words. And you got to put up the whole act. You know what I'm saying? That we, so like these people, they come over here, they act like that. And every time, like, I've seen them get on, like, panels on court looking straight super country YT. But they start talking like that and start moving all slow and talking with their hands. And I'm like, come on, man. Y'all all don't do the exact same thing. And if that's the case, come on, man. That ain't never the case. But okay. So I showed you how some of them took our surnames. But here's some more people taking some surnames. Now, these people... got the last name Friedman. Now, that one's spelled a little bit different, but when you come over to these people's naturalization paperwork, now this is Dunn. We'll get to Dunn. I got a whole folder full of Dunns. I guess I put those under here. Alfred Dunn, the Dunn family, some Dunns coming over. Now, this one says Dunn or Denneberg. So that's when I was like, oh, Denneberg is probably your real first name. Your real surname. But they gave you that Dunn because they shouldn't have the word Dunn, the last name Dunn, because it was already existing here under some Indians. I can show you, like, I got a folder in particular that is about Dunn specifically. Let me find this here. So many damn folders. So yeah, so like what was I about to pull up? Kind of lost my train of thought there. The Dunn surname. It already belonged to people. Oh, yeah, the Indians. Do I have that list on here? That might be on my phone. No, here it is. So in the Dawes Rolls, on the Oklahoma History website, in the Dawes Rolls, you will find a lot of Indians with the last name Dunn. Now, they're just some freedmen. These are by blood Indians, okay? And some of them even show full blood. Even a bunch of full bloods right here. Last name Dunn, full-blooded Creek Indians. So to be a full blood, that means your mama and your dad had to be full blood. That means they mama and dads had to be full blood, and so on and so forth. So did they assign these people this name? The only way I would be able to know is if I found them in one of the rolls. Now that's the Dawes rolls, and you find them over there, but Dawes rolls don't have name changes. But over here, you got something called the Gillian Miller rolls. Now I don't think they have name changes on the Gillian Miller rolls. Nope. But these would be Indians as well. These would all be Indians and surnames. And a lot of y'all will find your surnames. If you didn't find them in the Dawes rolls, you might find them on the Gillian Miller rolls. If you need to know what it is, screenshot that and go to the National Archive Records and start looking through those pages for your family's surname, your last name in there. Now, this one was your normal, but I want to say maybe it was the Miller Rose. There's also or it might have been the Baker Rose. Let's see. Eastern Cherokee Indian Rose, right? My bad. Let's take a look at some. All right, so now these were kind of intriguing to me. Is this the type? Or maybe not. Hold on, let's see. Damn it. Let me do that. Maybe it wasn't this one. Yeah, this is different. I hadn't seen this one. These are everybody's individual card. Which is pretty dope. But that's not what I'm looking for either. That was the Baker. Maybe it was the Kern Clifton Rose, maybe. Did I get to the Kern Clifton? Maybe I didn't get to the Kern Clifton. One of them, what I'm getting to is maybe it was the Wallace Rose. One of these, this might be it. No. One of these I saw did assign show like English names and Indian names on there. But these are just showing just your name, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, just the name. So one of them I was looking at earlier. I guess I just am not gonna find the goddamn shit. Let's see, Indian Judgment, California Indian Judgment. Let me see this one. And even then, even if this is one, it would only be one area. But mostly, I was just trying to say that unless we can see that it was given to somebody, so I guess that was the roles. Hold on, let's see. Family name first. I haven't seen this one. Now that I'm looking at this one. But this one, okay. See, that one says Indian name. This might have been the one I did see. An English name. So, excuse me. And let me just go. Dang, that would take a moment. Let me see. I want to kind of go down to the Duns and see if I see Dunn listed. Now, if I see Dunn listed, then I would say that, okay, they may have assigned them the name Dunn, but then maybe I can also see what their original Indian names was, even though they only show one under each one category, which is odd. I wish I could expand this out multiple pages. I don't know why I can't. Let me see. No. I didn't want to have to click down 30 damn times. But, my bad. I know I done got a little boring. But, damn, man, I was hoping this wasn't going to take forever. Is there a way to fucking just see? Okay, there we go. Multiple pages. Scroll down some pages. Hell, that's what I was trying to find. Skip a bunch. Let's see, where am I at right here? We're in the B's. So let's go quite a few pages. And it's possible I could, because this is this is the California one though. So I shouldn't see Duns in the California area roles, but I'm gonna look anyway. You never know what the hell you're gonna see. We in the D's, DU, DOs. Let me get to the DUs. Dunaway, Duncan. Let's go to the next. Oops. Go to the next page. Duncan. Dunlap. Indians. Duncan. Dunlap. And those names are really derivatives of Dunn. There's some Duns. But there is no Indian name under them. So I'm going to assume that they wasn't assigned the name. Now, these Duns show to be born. Do they have a birthplace? They got a date of birth, but they don't have a birthplace. And this is in California, but their last name is Dunn. And there's some Indians. And it was a big, prominent surname. And a lot of people did move over there to the California area at some point. But there are some Duns here listed. Arthur, Levi, Pearl, Richard. And no Indian name listed for them. So it is what it is. And this is the California Indian Rolls from 1928. Either way, what we do see is the name is here. And it's under Indians. And it's under Indians in multiple areas. So what the hell are these people doing coming over as immigrants with the last name Dunn? That's basically what I'm getting at. I'm coming back over here Well, I'll go to my done folder. Coming back over here, then you start to ask, what are these people doing? Coming over, being naturalized, getting the last name Dunn. On top of that, these people are white in color. And why is that important? Well, the Dunn name in the dictionary means of a dull brown color, swarthy. It's of Celtic origin, of a dark color, partaking of brown and black. So it means of a person who is brown or black. When you look it up on forebears, it'll tell you this surname is the same thing. Anglo-Celtic, of dark brown complexion, common amongst the Anglo-Saxons. So Anglo-Saxons, the Dunn name was common among the Anglo-Saxons. That means the Anglo-Saxons must have been some brown complected people, right? The original ones likely were. Okay? And so on and so forth. So I'm showing all that to say that the first people with the name Dunn had to have been some black folks. But when you go here, some people had wrote this up talking about, hey, these are the Dunns, and they say James Dunn was the founder of the Dunn family who came from and settled in Virginia in the 1700s after some wars, after a bunch of Indian wars. But these people are YT. Why would some YT folks be running around here with a last name that says, hey, I'm a brown person? So that's the main thing with this Dunn thing. On top of that, Dunn was a prominent name for O.J. Dunn, the black lieutenant governor, the eventual first black governor of Louisiana, fresh out of slavery times. 1868, 1865 is when slavery happened. So that's fresh out of them times, but here you got a real melanated man with the same last name. So I really eventually take you on a journey to knowing more about who Dunn is, the Dunn family, and all this other stuff, and going through the YT Dunns and stuff like that. I'm not gonna do all that tonight. I'm pretty much done because I got so many receipts and so little time type shit. But if I don't really have like something already planned, like I really could just like click on one of these and go in or some shit with the receipts that's in some of these folders or whatever. But I typically like to have a set structure. Like I like to go over what I'm gonna go over with you before, so that way I know what I'm doing. I know sometimes it seems like I'm just kind of haphazardly going and shit, but I do have a little rhyme or reason. I do have a set little lesson plan, and I try not to touch the same things all the time. But some things will always overlap, so that's gonna happen. But either way, I know it's 12:11. About to get off of here and have a good night, y'all. Appreciate y'all coming in. Thanks again for being here.